Hey on, folks. Welcome to part 15 of my refight of Brandywine using GMT's Great Battles of the American Revolution. We are at the bottom half of turn 8, the Patriots' turn. Previous episode, we saw the British as they took action at the top of turn 8. It's approximately 3 p.m. in the afternoon on the actual day of the battle. And this is what it looks like so far. And I already did the Patriots' movement and rallies, so I'm going to show some of that here. So if you missed it, the dispositions and situation, go back to the previous episode and have a look at least at the end of that one, and we'll see what's going on here. The Patriots basically shored up their positions here. There was some shifting of troops, as you can see. One important thing that I will point out in a second, but some of the troops back at the headquarters have moved forward, this unit in particular. Also, reinforcements came on this turn from Point E, which is way up here. It was a small militia unit. I believe it was this one here, a 1-strength unit, and some artillery, and I believe that's what this cannon was. So these came on this turn as reinforcements. Nothing major, just some militia, and that's it. We'll throw them into the fray here in a minute. Basically, the focus here for the Patriots, maintain defense around Proctor's and the eastern side of the Brandywine, but at the same time take advantage of the disadvantaged positions of the British. They have basically one unit. The King's Own Regiment is the only British unit across the Brandywine at the moment. And again, refer to the previous episode to see what happened with that. Grant was thrown back across Chad's Ford, and yeah, that's the only unit that's remaining, the King's Own, who did fairly well in the previous segment, the British player's turn. But the Patriots have now moved around that unit. They've almost got him completely surrounded. So this is a very advantageous position for the Patriots. They want to try and take that unit out, capture or eliminate it, because that will boost the morale of the Patriots. And yeah, I'm going to show that in a minute too. So that's the situation here. Was contemplating kind of a diversion attack down here with some of Sullivan's troops coming across and all this kind of stuff. I'm a very impatient general when it comes to these games. It's one of my flaws, but yet it's one of my strengths as well. So I'm always thinking offensively. And I restrain myself because I'm not sure that would be a good idea, because I really don't want to get too aggressive and get myself out of position or in a position of being overwhelmed by the British. And we can't afford that right now, not with the current morale situation. You'll notice up here I'm engaging these British Dragoons who are trying to sneak behind me. Get a wider view here so you can see it in context. But yeah, so there's going to be a fight here. And again, I did all the rallies and the movements, so we're going to go right into defensive fire for the British artillery and then rifle. Then we're going to get into close combats. But yeah, this is the situation down here. And also, I did successfully rally. There was a unit up here who was in some of the fighting here at Chad's Ferry. He withdrew to this position. I believe this is the unit. I'm not sure. And he rallied. So that helped the morale of the Patriots as well. Of course, we need to take a quick look at that situation, the Army morale. The Patriots were at 4. They're currently at 5. So hopefully they can get themselves back up into the fatigued zone, because this wavering zone is pretty bad. Not only is it close to 0 and the Army is demoralized, but it's a negative too. It all printed morale ratings on units, so that's not good. British also dropped a couple so far in the battle. British also have 2 momentum. You'll remember in the previous episode I fought a pretty pivotal combat involving Grant. And remember, that was over here at the Brandywine Creek. And he was thrown back. I could have actually used momentum for the British to force a reroll. I didn't. So we held on to our momentum, absorbed the results, and we'll go with that. Of course, looking up here at Howe's force and Sterling, I should say. Well, this is the Patriots' turn. Quite a bit going on. I moved up some extra reinforcements here from Pulaski's Legion, as well as Lady Washington's horse. They have moved up to kind of engage the enemy horse that previously captured some of my cannon. There was also some cannon adjacent to them, which I have since moved out of there. moved him in here with Lord Stirling himself. I also moved out some of the infantry from that position, just to help take out those cavalry, which are getting behind me. See if we can get a better view here for you guys. Yeah, this is where I'm talking right here. There's 2 units of British cavalry here, strength 2. Have to be dealt with. Can't leave them back there attacking my undefended artillery, which shouldn't be undefended. But yeah, there is that situation. And I moved forward some units to try and take advantage of some exposed British units. In this case here, there's a fight going to happen here. I do have a rifle unit. I might actually commit the rifles to a combat here. Well, I'm going to think about this. I'm not sure. I'm not sure this is a good combat to be involved with, as well as this. So there is kind of a disadvantage for the Patriots here. I wanted to concentrate my forces, but somehow I got messed up with this unit over here. We'll see what I do. This is a strong unit, by the way. There's a strength 5 in there. And there's a British 5 here, and over here is another British 5 strength unit. So it's a lot to deal with. But there is this unit, which is also strength 5. So it's kind of even-steven here. In fact, I might actually have an advantage with the rifles. So we'll see how I handle this combat. I might actually do a diversion, just so I don't have to fight one of these stacks. But we'll see. That's going to mean a column shift to the left in favor of the British. There will be a fight here. If I use this unit as well, it would have been an advantage, even more so, but totally unnecessary because this is strength 6 to 1, so that's more than enough to take care of these Rangers, or not Rangers, these German Jaegers. And also down here, I do have an advantage with these 2 units on this chasseur. They actually have the, what are they? Émissettes attached to them, so we could take them out of the action right quite quickly if we wanted to. And they have +1 leader morale stat. So there is that. So let's see how successful we are at this. We got to get some success here, get some eliminated and captured units if we're going to boost our army's morale. And one other thing, you'll see some forces moving up. You'll see them there. These guys were previously down by the headquarters. I have moved them up. They're marching away up the road here. I have also committed Washington and his buddy Lafayette. They're currently here. And I wasn't sure about throwing them somewhere. And I thought, you know what? Do it now. Move them up towards where Howe is coming on. We're going to have a face-off between Washington and Howe and see how that fares. Washington is pretty powerful. So wherever I put him, he's going to be effective. And with Lafayette at his side, it's going to be very helpful. And so I just took the chance. We're going to move up and help Stirling with him. I could have used him down by the Brandywine with Green's forces. I keep saying Green, but he's out of the battle. I should say Wayne. Down by the creek, but I don't know. I didn't want to wait too long. I want to throw him in before the battle's over and get some use out of him. So I'm going to throw him up here with Stirling. So it'll be fun to see how effective he is at keeping those troops in tip-top fighting shape for the Patriot cause. All right, folks, let's take a look at the shooting, which is next. All right, coming back down to the Brandywine Creek, it's British defensive artillery fire. There isn't really much. I think there's a cannon here. Let's get him stacked properly. There will be some counter battery fire, I believe. We're going to be able to counter battery over here, or hit the unit that's with them, just for fun. There really is no big advantage to that right now at the moment. There'll be some pot shots, basically, being taken here. I do have these 2 batteries, and they are in range of Proctor's position, so I'm probably going to do that, as well as this battery as well. I do have 1, 2, 3 batteries atop these slopes that can concentrate fire on Proctor's position, and that would be beneficial. This battery could also shoot at this position at the Chad's Ford, take some pressure off this unit right here. Yeah. So there is that to look forward to. A little bit of concentrated firepower. For rifles, I don't believe there's any on the side of the British. The Patriots probably have. Yeah, they got a rifle right here, which will shoot on this unit. Of course, I think that's the only rifle unit. And I don't think there's any more cannon. If there is, I'm definitely going... Yep, there's one right there. A nice strength 3 in Grant's position. It's on high ground. I don't think it could see anything other than... 1, 2, 3... No. The only target I believe it can spot is right here. This battery atop these slopes. Everything else is... can't see them. I'll double check all that, of course. But yeah. So, and some firing here with the Patriot or the Loyalist battery. They can fire there. Would help if you could see where I'm talking. There's the Patriot battery right here. All right. Of course, up here at Howe's location, there is some rifle fire with these Jaegers, and I don't see any other shooting. There is... No, I don't see anything. Not even these cannons. So there's probably not going to be much shooting down here from the British. Patriots do have a rifle unit here, which will be fired. So I'll show you the results of all that. So, all right, let's get into the defensive fire and the rifle fire. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like after the bloodbath, if any. Right, defensive artillery for the British completed, and so is the rifles. Totally nothing. So nothing really happened. They're all ineffective fire, except in one instance, if I recall correctly. There was some fire from the Strength 2 battery by the British. They fired on this unit that was on high ground, on top slopes, and it was forced to retreat. So it is now located there. So that's about it. There was some rifle fire here and there, and up here where Howe is as well, there was some Jaeger fire and some rifle fire by some Patriots. Totally ineffective. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the close combats, because that's the fun stuff. And we take a close look down here. This is going to be an important combat for the Patriots, simply because they need to get some enemy casualties tallied, and soon. So there will be a fight here against the King's Own. And it's pretty much a straightforward fight. I don't think the British are surrounded in this case. I'll have to look at the definition of it, but I will look that up. But regardless, there will be a combat here. I'm sure there's more than 6 strength for the Patriots going in here, and plus they have an adjacent leader, so they'll be able to use cards. The full array of tactics. The British, not a chance. They're pretty much stuck with the basic 4. And yeah, so there's going to be a combat there. And also with Gnifhausen himself, I forgot this one. He's got strength 3. That will be attacked. We have a strength 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a slight advantage for the Patriots here. But Gnifhausen's going to be able to use his tactics. It's across a ford, so we'll see what comes of that. So, yeah. And of course, up here there's also some combats. We got the cavalry action. Washington's horse going against these 2 British units. We also have some infantry involved as well. We'll see what happens there. The British might actually withdraw. Actually, I don't think they can, because of these cavalry. All right, so there is that to resolve. Also down here, we've got a situation where we have these British lights, and then this stack of lights and a strength of 5 adjacent, as well as Cornwallis's hex with another strength of 5 here. So I've got a bunch of units involved here. Also, we have, I guess that's it. No, we got these Jaegers over here who are also adjacent to this combat. And, of course, there's this. So I think the Patriots are going to focus... Well, yeah, there's these guys here, too. Can't forget them. That's where the amusets are. I think the Patriots are going to focus up on this unit here with these 2. So they're going to get an advantage there. That's good for them. We'll see how that works out. This strength 6 is probably going to take on the Jaegers. Right here. What else is in their cannon? So that's a big advantage for the Patriots. They'll probably win that. And this unit, of course, won't have to fight in this combat because they're fighting. So he's free to engage Cornwallis coming up the road with the light infantry. And it's a 5 against 5 in this case. However, if I use one of these units over here, say this second strength 5 unit, that's going to be 10 to 5, 2 to 1 odds. And if I had the light infantry, that would be 11. But to do that, I would have to have one of these units, probably the lights, engage this unit. He has to be attacked. However, I could do that diversion tactic. This stack here could divert this unit, so he wouldn't have to be attacked. But remember, to do that means I have to take a left column shift on the CRT, which is disadvantageous for the Patriots in this case. But it would give me strength 11 against 5. That'll be rounded in the favor of the Patriots in this case. So we'd be looking at 3-to-1 odds, I believe. Right now it's 10 to 5. That right there is 2-to-1. But if I add the rifles, that'll be 11. And since we're the attacker and we're more strength points, we would go in our favor. So there is that to consider. So this will be an important combat for sure. So all in all, I think the bulk of the, let's call them fun combats, will be taking place up here with Sterling and Howe. And yeah, let's see what happens. I'm going to resolve these combats, starting with up here for you guys, and I'll show you the results. All right, before I go any further and forget things, I start out the combats over in this area here with the Sterling and Howe's troops. These guys fought. These guys were back here, I believe, in these positions, and the enemy unit was here. Was the German chasseurs, the amisets. They retreated. 1, 2, 3. They're in this hex. They're stacked legally at this point in this position. The Patriots advanced into the hex, so that was good. They basically got a disrupted result. So that penalized the British. British Army morale dropped to 16. Next, I fought the combat up here. I believe it was these Jaegers that were in this position. And those 2 Patriot units right there were attacking them. And that included the guns. Actually, the guns couldn't advance, I don't believe, after the combat. They don't really play no role, so they wouldn't actually advance. Anyway, I'll double check that. But there was a 6-to-1 odds battle here. The Jaegers, of course, penalized for being a black background R unit, rifle unit, not as effective in close combat. They were disrupted as well. No, actually, they had a retreat result. They had to go back 1 hex. Unfortunately, they could not retreat. There was no hex they could go that was not in an enemy zone of control. So they were captured. So these Jaegers, like the previous Jaegers in earlier turns, was captured. And then these guys followed up. So they're now in that hex right there. An important thing here to note is that the Patriot morale is no longer wavering. They don't suffer the -2 on their morale ratings of the units. They're now in the fatigued zone, and I'll show that at the end of the conclusion of combats, where they end up. So, yeah, so that's a positive occurrence right now for the Patriots. That's good. So far, so good. Also, we're going to have a combat here. I have to fight this next. Got to figure out how I'm going to do this, if I'm going to use a diversion or whatever. So let's resolve this next. All right, resolve that. Let's take a close look at it. Here's Cornwallis's position currently. He was disrupted. Now, what happened, it was a +1, -1 modifier into the 2-to-1 column. That was it. That was including tactics. Cornwallis attempted to turn flank. The Patriots were skirmishing, which resulted in a +1 to the combat. And so on and so forth. Also, the new morale modifier for the Patriots' Army morale is now in the fatigue zone, which is a -1. So their +1, this was the lead unit, with a -1 is 0. So that had no impact on it. So it was a +1, -1 under the 2-to-1 odds. The original result was a retreat. The British had to retreat 1 hex, and not being happy with that, having 2 momentum counters, they used one during the combat to force a reroll of the die. And sure enough, the second die roll was an 8. Now, I thought about this. I have 1 more momentum. I could have forced another reroll once we applied these results. Chose not to. So I took it. I took the disruption. And probably not a good idea. I shouldn't have used momentum at all anyway. But this is the end result. Cornwallis was forced to fall back, retreating with his disrupted unit, the 1st Light Infantry. So that is unfortunate for the British, totally unexpected. And of course, the Patriots advanced into the hex. Now, what's interesting, and I'll point this out, is that what I did here in this situation up here, where we got the light infantry and these guys, the rifle armed unit and the strength 5, what I did is I used this unit, the strength 5 unit, alongside this unit for a total of 10 strength going against Cornwallis's strength 5. So it's 2-to-1 odds. The rifles don't have to attack because, well, they're rifles. So even though they're in this hex and in the enemy zone of control, they never have to attack. So what I decided to do is to not attack with them. I left them out of the combat entirely. So they're totally discounted. But this unit that was with him in that hex did fight. Now, what I decided to do with 2-to-1 odds in my favor is I took the column shift. I did the diversion on this unit, so I never had to attack him. I also did not count him in the combat because there's a penalty of -1 in the combat for using him as an attacker, I believe. Yeah, so it was just 2-to-1 odds. And I took the column shift. It was a 3-to-2 in this case, and I believe the final result was a disruption. I rolled an 8. More than that was the net result anyway. Yeah, that result was an 8. So, yeah, that was the situation. So I just basically did a diversion on this unit, and I did not count the light infantry. So it was just 2-to-1, knocked down to 3-to-2 because of the diversion. Got a disrupted result on Cornwallis, who fell back 3 hexes, and there was room for him to get back here. So that's what happened. This is a turnaround. So the net effect of that is the Patriot morale. In fact, let's take a look at the Army morale levels currently. And there they are. So you can see where we're at. We have the British teetering on the high and fatigued zone. This is important. If this drops down, from that point on, the British are going to be at a fatigued army level. It's -1 to all units printed morale and initiative modifier. They used to have a bonus of 1 up here. Now they won't get that. And also, for the Patriots, they jumped up from 4. They're up to 6 currently, which means they're only suffering a -1 in their printed morale instead of -2, which is brutal. And also their initiative is unaffected, so when we roll initiative. So that's the situation, folks. It's actually getting closer all of a sudden. Very interesting. So getting back to the fighting up here, we got to resolve this one with the cavalry. I'm going to show you the results of that next. All right, so that's that, and the result was a pin. Now, of course, the Dragoons could not use their withdrawal. It's the enemy cavalry. So yeah, they were pinned. So these 3 units involved in this combat are now pinned in place. That'll be resolved in the next combat, unless somebody wants to move away in the next upcoming turn, actually. But you'll take a penalty to your army morale. So, yeah. So this is the combats up here between Stirling and Howe. Now let's go down to Brandywine and see what's going on there. Of course, not as exciting if you ask me after that fighting up there. We got this combat here. There's going to be a lot of Patriot units attacking the King's Own and also against Kniphausen's position right here on the opposite side of this primary ford, Chad's Ferry. We're going to resolve that next. All right, we'll start with this unit here. I've tallied up all the modifiers, and it comes out to a +1 overall. That's after tactics and everything. I think it was a Patriot turn flank against a stand fast. And remember, Wayne is adjacent to this combat, so we can use all those cards. We do have an open flank as well, so we get the full spectrum of cards, I believe, unless I'm making a mistake somewhere. But anyway, I also found out that this unit, the King's Own, is also considered to be surrounded. And the reason for that is because these are zones of control of the Patriot units. In this case here, at Chad's Ford. And, I guess not in this case. So he's not surrounded because you don't trace line of your zone of control into a wooded hex. So actually, I'm wrong. He is not surrounded. He does have an avenue of escape. This is not prohibited terrain either. So actually, that would eliminate an additional +1. So we got -2, +2, no modifier under the 4-to-1 odds. So let's resolve this combat. All right, so it was a pretty high roll. I think they got a 9. There was no modifier to it, so it was basically a defender captured, or defender's choice. But the British used their momentum counter. The last one, I think it was going to pay off in this case. And I think the Patriots scored a 3 or something like that, if I could double check the stats here. Anyway, the final result was both sides retreat. And the British were able to fall back into this hex because the enemy doesn't trace a line of sight, or a line of zone of control in here. I believe he can fall back into that. Otherwise, he'd be surrounded. I'll double check all this, but I believe that's what happens in this case. So he retreated across the Brandywine, safe and sound. And all the Patriots retreated as well, or at least the lead unit did, which I believe is, I think he's back here now. And all the other units, he passed his morale. 2 units here fell back. They failed the morale, so they also retreat 1 hex. And that was it. So that did not go well, and that was a great use of momentum to kind of sway things in the favor of the British, or to avoid drastic results. So no army morale changes for that combat, but the British were forced to cross the Brandywine. And again, I'll double check this to make sure I got it right. And next up is going to be this here with Kniphausen going against this stack. 4-3. It's going to be 3-2 odds. I'll give you the results of that. All right, and that's it. Fully resolved. The British held out. They held their position. Kniphausen is still located at the ford. And unfortunately for the Patriots, even though their tactics worked out, the Patriots stood fast, going against Kniphausen's choice of turning an enemy flank. The result was a -2 to the combat, which favors the Patriots. Under the 3-2 odds, I believe. But no, actually, that's wrong. -2 actually favors the British. But anyway, British held out. It was a total of +1 going against -4 in modifiers, so it's a -3. The Patriots rolled horrible. Net effect was the main lead unit for the Patriots was disrupted. It is now currently located here, way back, the Virginian unit. And the remaining units had to pass the morale. This unit was the only one to pass it. It held its ground. The second one is located here. It had to retreat 1 hex. I believe that's correct. Actually, it was this unit, the -1 unit, that had to retreat. So, yeah. So 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I got that right. Strength 4 against strength 3. So yeah, that was the net result. I can't remember if the British used momentum in this combat. I think that was used here. Yeah, I'm forgetting. So this was a straight-up combat, and the British held out. Kniphausen is holding the ford. But so are the Patriots. They still have this unit here, this Marylanders, located at the ford. So there's still combat going on here. The King's Own were forced back also here. Even though the Patriots are forced to retreat. I don't know, it did not go well for the Patriots here. They had an opportunity to do some damage. They did nothing. Their army morale is back into the fatigue, or the wavering zone at 5 because of this disruption. Yeah, so that's the situation, folks. I'm going to call it here. It's 28 minutes into this battle. Really enjoyable. Like I'd say, things are heating up. The Americans are hanging in there. I mean, they started the turn at Army level 4. They're currently at 5. So, you could flip over there. You could see what I'm talking about here. There's the Patriots, and here is the British. I'll have to go back in the video and see if this was here, or was it here? I forgot where this was. It was either here or here. But anyway, they took no additional losses. And I'll double check this. Yeah, this is the case, folks. I'm going to end it here. The battle is heating up. The Patriots are still in the game. They're holding out. Washington is on his way to help Sterling. There's some pinned combats up here at the top. Things are getting desperate, for sure, for the British. They're not having as much success as they would like. You know what time it is, folks? It's time to roll initiative. Let's do that. All right, so here we go. Now, the British are going to have a -0. And the Patriots are going to have -1. So those are the modifiers for the initiative. There's no momentum by either side, so no one can change these results. So once again, Patriots -1 to this initiative roll. High roll gets it. 6 for the Patriots, -1 is 5, going against a 2 for the British. Guess what? The Patriots have initiative going into turn 9. So move their marker over there. And there will be some reinforcements. As we can see here, this is turn 9. It's 4 p.m. Going into 4 p.m. Americans are at the top here. They go first. And we're going to get some Pennsylvania units, a strength 6, -1 morale. And some militia here, strength 6. Well, they're both militia, actually. That's the kneeling guy. But they're very sizable. They're coming on point E, where the reinforcements came on last time. But also, we're getting, for the British, we're getting the Black Watch and more Fraser's Highlanders. And Black Watch comes on where Howe came on. That's up that direction. Fraser's, they're coming on point F. Let's take a look at that. Point F is way over here. Look at Nifhausen's forces are. So Fraser's is going to be deployed here. And he's going to be right here with this guy right next to him. So as soon as he moves out of there, he's going to have to fight. I'll have to double check this, if he's actually stuck here. I don't think so. He could either move here and... I don't know. I'll look into this, but this is his point right there. That is Fraser's Highlanders, the 1st Battalion. So I guess the second one is up here somewhere, because I know there he is. 2nd Battalion, Fraser's Highlanders. They're already engaged right from the get-go of the battle. All right, folks, that's it. That is the look of the battle so far. I think overall the British took a beating, really, and survived. They had a couple disrupted units down here. They were pushed back across the Brandywine. Their forces up here in the northern sector were pushed back. They had some disruption as well up there, as well as Cornwallis. And there's a continuing close combat up here on the high ground in that woods area there, over the guns. Patriots did all right because of that. They were least successful down here, unfortunately. But, yeah, they have advantage in the next turn. They go first again. So they're going to be able to shift some things and make some corrections going into the next turn, both up here in the north and down here. So let's stay tuned for that, folks. See if the Patriots can shore up these defenses, launch some effective counterattacks, and rally some disrupted units. Turn 9 is next. See you in the next episode, folks. Hang in there. It's only going to get better. You guys take care.